Gary, we'll check back with you, pal. Thank you. Dr. Wes Crenshaw is back with us this morning for another Therapy Thursday. Welcome in, Dr. Wes. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Dr. Wes, 6 million children and teens are diagnosed with ADHD, and for them, the pandemic has caused a big disruption socially, emotionally. What do you think the pandemic especially has made it difficult for kids with ADHD? What's been the biggest difficulty for them?
Well, education, no doubt. You know, despite a courageous effort on the part of teachers, my wife's one of them, most families in the area are on track to lose about 3 semesters of quality education for their kids and college-age students. And it could be months before we really get an accurate picture of what they've lost because none are getting tested. And some of the college-age adults have either struggled through remote learning, laid out of year, quit school altogether, or bombed out completely. And we're still trying to figure out which of those was the wisest choice.
So what can parents do trying to get these kids back on track?
Well, a COVID-era education is for ADD kids is like somebody came along and studied exactly what ADD kids need most in school and then deployed exactly the opposite. For most students, online school is really unregulated by parents. They've got to go to work, leaving kids dependent on leaving learning dependent on a young person's dedication and persistence. A lot of sitting, not much doing, no social interaction. We didn't really like virtual school for ADD kids before COVID. And it's not been any better after COVID.
And what steps can families take when rethinking their child's educational track?
Yeah, my best advice to families is start over, and rethink everything. Focus on 2 areas, figuring out what's been lost and embracing remedial education. Kids can take achievement tests to figure out where they're at, but you're going to probably have to do that privately, either through an educational psychologist or university. KU's main campus has a psychology clinic that does this, and at low cost. And then intro exams for community college are probably a better predictor of what's been missed than, say, the ACT or the SAT.
Yeah. What's available for remedial learning?
Well, you know, you'd hope high schools would be able to do this, but I think it's a lot to ask right now with everything going on, and even in the next year or two. So parents may want to investigate 0-level classes at a local community college. You know, those are expensive and time-consuming, and they don't even count for college credit. But trying to advance your kids without adequate preparation is going to be more costly. And I think the demand for this is going to be off the chart. And so if you happen to be running a community college, start recruiting staff right now and maybe rent space in a vacant mall because you're going to need it post-COVID.
What about tutoring?
You know, tutoring can be helpful. We've been doing a lot of it around here. The trick has been, of course, social distancing, and some tutors no longer are willing to put that risk in. But yes, tutoring can be helpful, but it's usually a supplement to the learning environment as opposed to a replacement for or a remediation for shortage of learning.
And emotionally, Dr. West, how can we help these kids?
It's such a mess, and we've never had as much demand in our office as we do right now. We're getting 30 requests a week, not all from kids, but from adults and young adults too. And really, if ever your kid needed to talk to a therapist, it may be now because they have a lot of grief and loss issues. They've lost social relationships. And for kids with ADHD, this is even more difficult because those are areas they may struggle with normally. And so you bring along COVID and a lack of social regulation, and you just dump that on them, and it's very depressing. We've got a lot of very depressed and anxious kids right now.
I believe that. All right. Dr. West, thank you.
Good to see you all.
You too.
You too.
Yeah, you as well, Dr. Wes. We'll check back with you. Hey, you can learn more about treating ADHD in Dr. Wes's new book, ADD and Zombies. That's the title. Also be sure to check out I Always Want to Be Where I Am Not. Just visit his website, drwes.com.